Welcome back. You're watching ET Inside. The Indian cricket team's dismal performance in the past few months has driven viewers away from the game. And although marketers are cutting back on their spend on cricket, there's no denying the power of the game. Nikhil Sivadas tells you why cricket will always be a sport Indians love to hate.
Power, passion and pride. Cricket means that much and more to India. It's got a religion-like status and its popularity with the masses is unswerving. And even though the men in blue have been literally testing the patience of their fans these past few months, their draw is undeniable. This mass obsession with cricket is what makes the game invincible in the eyes of advertisers and marketers.
I believe that the cricket has been, and it will continue to be, the most popular and most powerful sport in India. So there are always, of course, ups and downs, and I think it's just a temporary phenomenon.
If the format changes hadn't taken place, cricket was probably in a position that it could have been threatened. But the rapid adoption of the newer formats has probably given cricket an entirely new audience, including a fair share of women coming in and watching the sport. And I don't think that's going to change.
Indeed. Let's first address the matter from the point of view of viewership. According to a FICCI and KPMG report, niche genres like English news and sports command higher ad revenues in relation to their viewership because advertisers are willing to pay a premium for a group of focused audiences. That's why the power ratio for these channels, which is defined as the ratio between advertising revenues and viewership, is far higher. That puts cricket, which accounts for more than 80% of ad revenues in sports channels in India, at a clear advantage.
85-90% of total sports advertising revenues still is going into the world of cricket, and if you look at last year's numbers, it's estimated that probably around anything in the range of 2,200 to 2,400 crores of advertising went into cricket through a combination of all the India series, the World Cup and IPL put together. So, and the relative contribution on other sports is probably 10% of that.
Sports also offers advertisers more options in terms of ad properties and ad integration opportunities. For instance, the recent series that India played against Australia had Havells and Tata Docomo as co-presenting sponsors for the tour. And Nokia, Maruti Suzuki, Seagram's, Perfetti India, Toshiba, Samsung and Reliance Net Connect came on board as associate sponsors. From sponsorships to weaving brands into the viewing experience.
India का Australia tour हमेशा super intense.
For instance, the Australia series was labelled the Agnipath series in an attempt to promote Agnipath the film and the game itself.
Thunder down under.
Most broadcasters have some show. I mean, our show is called Extra Innings. And that's where we integrate brands, where we can work very closely with certain brands and try and integrate them into the studio in terms of backdrops or in terms of, especially with the commentators and across, all the panel discussion. So that's the possibility of certain brand integrations where, if the new movie is getting released, we try and get the cast onto the studio, they can talk about the new movie, and stuff like that.
Sponsoring cricket also makes sense from a marketer's point of view because of the fragmented nature of India's TV viewing market. This is one of the few platforms that can draw eyeballs from across the country because the game cuts through language, cultural and regional media consumption barriers.
Today we are looking at the B, C tier towns. There's no other sport that sort of reaches out to that milieu, right? The only two avenues you have are Bollywood and cricket. But if you are a slightly more urban product, if you're looking at the metros and SEC A+ towns, you have a lot of other options today. So it depends on what your category, what your target audience is really.
Oh, Mr. Khan.
And here cricket stands far above Bollywood because Bollywood's appeal is limited to specific regions.
India.
Logical.
The argument against cricket is that there is a visible glut. There are just too many matches and too much content for the viewer to digest. But here too, it's advantage cricket all the way.
There's too much of it. And people have now got bored. But it's not that they're turning to some other sport. I mean, what they'll do is they'll turn to movies or they'll turn to Saas Bahu. Or some other serial which they'll watch. But there is no other sport in India which is even close to cricket.
Fight for your place.
That's why experts believe that cricket's fortunes may face a temporary blip, but its star will continue to rise.
Banish fear. Banish pain.
Banish the excuses.
All it takes for the game to turn on its head is one good win. The public has a short memory and marketers and advertisers have little option but to flow with the tide.
Well, that's all in this edition of ET Insight. We'll be back next week with a detailed analysis of the 2G model. Until then, don't forget to write in with your feedback and suggestions. Thanks so much for watching.